it's so beautiful to hold the excitement of what the future holds and simultaneously just soften and melt into the gratitude of everything that's here right now.
Absolutely.
And I think that today for me is an opportunity, instead of looking forward to the future, like projecting my attention out into the future, even though I think it's really beautiful to speak about the infinite amount of things that can happen. Today, I really want to reflect on my gratitude of everything that I've achieved in my life. Hello, you beautiful humans, and welcome back to another episode of Deja Blu. I am your host, Blu, and I am just really excited about today's episode for so many different reasons. But if you can't already tell, we are sitting in currently the brand new Deja Blu podcast set, which is so exciting. If you're listening to this on audio and you can't see what's going on, jump over to YouTube, check it out, because this has been a vision that has been a long time coming and it is finally manifested. And what better way to debut the brand new podcast set than on my birthday edition. And it's not just the celebration that it's my birthday and there's a new podcast set, but we have André in the house today.
In the flesh.
In the flesh and blood. We've done podcasts before, but we haven't done podcasts like through video. It was right at the beginning when the podcast started. And you also were a huge part to play with this whole podcast set being what it is today. Because I just went away to Lake Tahoe for a couple of days and I came back and I left the podcast set was like super basic. The tree was in, the chairs were in God's hands. However, it was still really rustic and not put together. And I came back and he had transformed, as part of my birthday gift, the whole room. He hand-selected beautiful pieces that go all on the wall. Him and Chelsea built this amazing bookshelf. He spent hours wrapping the lights around this tree and bought little cushions and a rug and just made it super vibey. And I came back absolutely amazed. I couldn't stop saying, oh my gosh, just like 100 times in a row. So I just made so much sense to have you as the first guest on the podcast, on the birthday edition, in the new set, in God's hands. And André, I also live with you and share a bed with you every night, and we snuggle. No.
That happens, yep.
Yeah. And just a little bit of a backstory, just a little context around who André Duqum is.
Sure.
Well, he owns a podcasting production company, works very well in my favor, as well as being my beloved and inspiration, bringing amazing, brilliant minds from around the world, putting them together and creating very potent media as medicine. Potent. I say it with an extra potent because it is. It's got an extra P in there, or like a very sharp P. As well as, your mission is to support people's voices that are coming from the heart being put out into the world and getting into the hearts and minds of many. And so you're supporting so many others with podcasts, and maybe one day, maybe someday, at some point, he may just have his own podcast.
Yeah, we will see.
So thanks for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm stoked to do this. This is my highest excitement. This podcast room was a labor of love, and I just know how special it would feel to come back and have it feel like, you can really step into it and start making content and really activate it. I mean, we can dive into everything, but I just know how much you've poured into the podcast and your content and your social media presence and everything the past couple of years. And so it feels good to have a set that actually is in reflection of that. And obviously only a podcasting production company, I know a thing or two. So it's just like, order the things, make it happen, and happy birthday.
And thank you. I mean, it's one thing to dream a big vision and be like, I'm going to create this, and I'm going to have a tree in the middle of my podcast, and I'm going to have massive gold hands as chairs and all the things. But then it's another thing actually executing it. And it feels so rewarding and nourishing and fulfilling to be able to sit in the podcast set and to be able to be doing this podcast. This is a dream come true since I was about 5 years old. I've always wanted to interview brilliant minds and have my own sort of talk show and travel the world and just pick the brains of people that are the leading edge of their craft.
Yeah.
And this right now in this moment is a dream come true for my whole life. So thanks for being such a huge part of it because, you know, there's like, I talk about this, like there's the artwork and then there's the frame.
Yeah.
And depending on the frame, depends on the value in which our artwork is perceived by the world. And I have had the vision and I want to chat with people. But when I first started the podcast, I just had like a hand-me-down, like a third hand-me-down mic that was like not great high quality. It was like $50. And I was in, you know, the shed at the mother tree, the greenhouse. And now I have my own podcast set with like professional 4K cameras and microphones. And I just feel like I wouldn't be where I'm at today with my podcasting in that specific area if it wasn't for you. There's so many different areas I wouldn't be where I'm at today as well because of you. But specifically with the podcast, I just thank you, like from the bottom of my heart for believing in me, for pouring into me, for offering your gifts and spending hours wrapping these fairy lights around this tree.
Yeah, that was definitely the most tedious part. I think it paid off though. Hopefully it translates. Yeah. I mean, I definitely work, you know, just in an industry in like the content space and lots of big, you know, podcasters, very male dominant industry. And I feel like you stepping up and activating women's voices and being the like, you know, dominant and present female voice that you are. I feel like the set wants to also represent that, you know, you're very whimsical, you're a fairy. You like to go all over the place, but I feel like this is a really good representation of just like your true nature. And so I think it's important that your set kind of reflects that across camera.
Well, the most important thing I feel is that it is in the feeling. Like, how do I feel when I sit in this set? When I look around, I feel magical. I feel abundant. I feel excited. I feel curious about the mysteries of life when I sit in this set. Even we have like a little hanging mushroom that was gifted to me from Ali Schaefer. And it just, and there's crystals and salt lamps and the whole thing, and I feel magical and abundant. So that's a great feeling because the universe is just always responding to the feeling. So here we are, feeling all the feels.
On your birthday.
Birthday edition.
How does it feel? 31.
31. You know, when I was like 10 years old, I was like, if someone told me they were 31, I was like, oh, you're so old. I was like, I thought 31-year-olds were like decrepit. But now that I actually feel 31, I feel like there is a significant shift happening between the maiden to the mother, the archetypes of the maiden, mother, crone. And the maiden, in my perspective, is very whimsical and excited about life, but super naive and not quite sure of oneself and seeks external validation, but has lots of energy and lots of fresh ideas. Well, the maiden is the mother is a little bit more like deep-seated, rooted in one's being. And I've started to find my own style and my own flair and like the color palette that I like to wear and investing in things as opposed to just sort of buying stuff from Target to fill my house. That's like $200 budget. But to actually be like, I'd rather have less things, but higher quality and to have them for 10, 15 years, you know, and to start surrounding my life with that level of investment into beauty. And I feel like actually when I look at photos when I was 20 years old, I actually feel like I look more vibrant and younger. Because I think that the awakening process of coming into one's own personal power is actually create the vitality from the inside out. And there's a level of shine where it just comes through the eyes and it comes through the skin and it comes through the way that we love that is born from a deep-seated understanding of self. And I just feel like that is starting to become my default. And so I'm excited about this next rotation around the sun. And you know, yes, age 31 is how many times my body has traveled around the sun. And simultaneously, I think that we are a byproduct of the stories we tell ourselves. So the 6-year-olds in me that could be like, oh, I'm so old now, I'm 31. Or actually be like, my life is really just beginning. And that's actually what it feels like is happening.
So beautiful. Well said. That was actually going to be one of my questions of like the archetype switch from the maiden to the mother. So
okay, well, let's give it context today because I'm actually not going to be I'm not going to be interviewing you.
Yeah. It's your birthday, so we're gonna do a full interview on you. I'm stoked. I have some directions that I want to go in, but really just want to see how it unfolds. Um, yeah. First things first. I think for me, anytime I have a birthday or kind of a big transition in my life, I always like to first kind of take a deep breath and reflect on my past and where I've come and get clarity on where I want to kind of reroute or go in the future. And so for you, I would love for you just to kind of take a step back into the 25, 26, 27-year-old Charlotte that was just stepping into her power, and had these ideas and dreams and had kind of this essence and feeling of what you wanted to create and the impact and the people that you wanted to serve, but you didn't really have the means. I feel like I met you, couple like 2.5 years ago, and you were just this quintessential feminine essence, forest fairy, so much magic, and yet it's like if you don't have a cup to drink the water, then it's all over the, it's everywhere, and it doesn't have a container to be offered to other people. And so over the past 2.5 years, I've really seen you develop these containers and fluorescence and your women's immersions and the podcast and the content creation online and being able to see it really be offered to the world and have kind of a container for it has been really beautiful to see. So yeah, I want to talk about that, but first take us a little bit back, and just kind of share how you feel like you got here.
Well, first and foremost, you'd be a great podcast host. Just saying, just putting it out there,
Yeah.
the man that owns the podcast production company and helps everybody else's voice get out into the world. And yes, simultaneously, what an amazing host you are. So yeah, so good. I feel like I'm in good hands, quite literally.
You are very much in good hands.
Okay, so the question was, how did I get here?
Yeah. Kind of reflect. I think reflect on your journey a little bit and show us, what do you feel like were some key moments, some key realizations, some key pivots to where you got to how you got to where you are today.
Woo! Well, I feel like if people are listening to this podcast, they've most likely heard my story quite a few times.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go through my whole story. And if you haven't heard my story and you're listening to this podcast, then go check out some of my other content. Ding. Shameless plug. However, I would like to address more so the journey of radical authenticity. Yeah. And I say radical because I think some of the things that I've done in the past have seemed very radical, specifically from external lenses of just like, shaving my head and changing my name and different levels of expression that have been a little bit like, whoa, now Blu's doing this. Or Charlotte, originally my birth name is Charlotte and my name is Charlotte, but I go by Blu, which represents beauty, love, and unity is my life's work in the gene keys, the number one gene key of beauty. So I, of course, cue cherry blossom tree behind me with fairy lights. I love beautiful things. So I think that this journey has been one of, I think actually as a kid, I'll start there. As a child, I remember people saying to me, well, it's just the way that things are. And I had a really hard time with that sentence. It's just the way that things are. It's just the way that the government is. It's just the way that we have to do it. And I just would question why. And I couldn't quite understand that. I felt like a very magical texture of the human experience. And simultaneously, there was this narrative that felt like it was creating an invisible box around what it meant to be human. And I felt like there was a deeper pulse inside of my being that wanted to break out of that box. Respect people that lived in the box, respect that this is the way that things were, and simultaneously realize that I want to start peeling back the layers of actually what it means to be human and actually what is possible. And so I feel like I've always had a very, very vivid imagination. I play out full-blown scenes in my head of certain things, or when I was a child, I would spend hours... Sorry, I'm having flashbacks of when I did as a kid. I would be in my bedroom and I would have this whole scene playing out between 5 people and I would play all 5 characters. And I would be like, how could you? And then I would go to the other person and be like, but I did nothing wrong. And then I'd go back and play the other role and I would for hours play 5 different characters for a prolonged period of time, putting on different accents and quickly doing costume changes, and the costume changes would be on the other side of the bed. And I just always played in a realm of make-believe. And I think that a lot of my journey has been, there's been a very, very common theme that says seeing is believing. And I think that since I'm a very young age, I've actually operated from believing is seeing. And I think that that's what's tapped me slightly different outside of this metaphorical box that has been created based off of societal expectations of how we're supposed to be human, and recognizing actually that when we're in the believing is seeing, then a very whimsical, magical reality can be created, because the energy that we're emitting is just what we're attracting more of. So if I'm playing in a very magical reality, even if there's no one in my room, but yet there's 5 people having a full-blown conversation about a certain very important, 6-year-old topic, that's what laid the next 15 feet in front of me, then just allowed another layer of very profound synchronicities and divine alignment to line in my life. And I think that that's something that stayed very much alive for me as an adult. Is that I can sit in front of my manifestation board, my whiteboard, and look at my podcast guests and just cultivate a large amount of joy and celebration, whether it's through breath work or laughing yoga or certain things that just activate this higher octave of energy within me. And then I put my attention and intention onto those names of the people that I want on the podcast. And then within a couple of months, they're reaching out to me. And it's like, it's amazing what we can do with our imagination. And I think that sometimes, utilizing our imagination in the feeling that it's actually already here, and completely collapsing whether it's a belief or it just is, allows a realm of infinite possibilities to really be the avenue in which we play in. And so it's something that I've carried on since I was a child, and it's one of my most favorite things. And I think that there's a difference between being childish and childlike. And it's something that I want to carry with me for the rest of my life, is to be childlike when I'm 80 years old, to still be childlike and to play in this realm, and to recognize, when I was looking at ideas for the podcast set, I was on IKEA and I was looking at chairs that were like super basic, just regular cream chairs. And I realized that I had subconsciously been playing in a box, even what a podcast set even is supposed to look like. And then I had I looked on Craigslist and I found these gold hands, and I was like, ooh. And then in come childlike mindset of big, vivid imagination that was like, we could have a cherry blossom tree, we could have gold hands, we could have crystals and mushrooms, and it can be like an esoteric wet dream. and I was like, brilliant, then let's do it, because I make up the rules. And that was a really empowering piece that I also, have bestowed upon me since I was a child, that stayed alive. So I think that that's something that I want to put emphasis on, as opposed to highlighting my journey in specifics, but more so the energetics of what's allowed a very magical, fertile soil as an adult life to start sprouting, the seeds that were planted in a very whimsical way.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautifully said. I think for me, being able to see your journey has been my greatest pleasure and honor, seeing you evolve on your journey, and all the opportunities that come your way, the financial abundance that comes your way, all the opportunities. It's just really, really cool to see you grow on your path career-wise. And then also just in partnership, being able to see you and your essence come more and more online. I think that when we have these big visions of what we want to create in life, like our dream life, whatever that would be, and then it can be very overwhelming, but for me, I always like the analogy of if I was to drive from here to New York, from California to New York, you can't see the full distance, right? But if you're in a car, you're driving, you can see at night, you can see 100 feet in front of you. And then once you get 100 feet further, you'll see 100 feet further from there. And you can see further as you get there, And so for me, seeing, your journey, you've made these small decisions of moving in the direction, right? Because you can have the imagination, you can have the vision, but then you take the small actions every single day, whether it's, your morning practice, or the bigger things like going to retreats, or the longer endeavors like starting your podcast. But these little things that you just start, it's a process, I feel like, of self-actualization, of discovering yourself and creating yourself. We don't know fully who we are, but we're creating it as we kind of discover it. And for you, that maybe, talking is something that you love to do, and podcast is a great avenue for that. And yeah, you don't have the greatest equipment, and you don't have a studio, and you don't have the things that the people who are successful doing it have, but you can get a cheap mic and you can just start an audio podcast, and it doesn't have to be perfect to start. A lot of people get caught in this analysis paralysis of trying to have it all figured out before they actually get going. And it's if you just don't start, you're never going to be able to get to where you want to go. For you now, having your own set and being able to interview brilliant people, and like I said, having these amazing opportunities. So it's been really cool. And I think that's just a takeaway lesson for everybody to hear.
For me, it's like in every moment, right? For the rest of our lives, if we hope, only now, what are we paying the universe right now? And if I was to sit down, with a shitty mic and in a sort of a dilapidated shed in the backyard and record my first podcast, it doesn't matter about the perfection of it. It doesn't matter if I was dropping words. It didn't matter if the quality of the mic. It didn't matter the location that I was in. It was that I was doing it. And that always just pushes the first domino. And so in every moment, we're consciously or unconsciously manifesting more of what we are emanating in the present. So if I'm showing up and doing a podcast, or I'm showing up and doing a painting, or I'm doing a women's retreat, I'm actively calling in more of that into my life. And so that was really a deep realization of a level of responsibility of what am I sending my energy into in every given moment, and what am I asking for more of in this moment. And so just starting the podcast, which took me months to actually have the courage to even just get it done, that pushed the first domino. And now I look back on my podcasting journey and I'm absolutely amazed. And none of this would have happened if I never just started. So I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, but looking back on it now, it feeds every other endeavor that is just starting. For example, you and the community chipped in and just before this podcast just blew my mind with multiple amazing gifts for my birthday. And a part of it is a whole sound system to explore creating and recording music. So a looping machine and the sound effects and a microphone and different instruments and all of the things for me to really get going in that avenue. And that is a whole new playing field. Like I love music and I share music whenever I'm asked to. And I've never really gone like all in on music. It's just been like a dabble of something on the side and I sing in places to support with the healing of the space. But now I've just had a whole new endeavor. And the moment that I sit down in front of that looping machine, I'm calling in more opportunities to share music. The amount of energy I put into that is more energy charged in that certain area, which will then attract it into my life. And so I think that it's really important, even if we are in a 9-to-5 job or we find ourselves 5 days a week doing something that we're not super passionate about, at least can we do 1 hour a day where we're focusing on the things that we actively want to call in. It's really important.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. It's totally easy to connect the dots looking backwards, right? Steve Jobs has a quote about connecting the dots. Schnooby Lily is looking
Can we just
so
zoom in on
adorable.
Schnooby right now? Chelsea, if you edit this video, can you just zoom in on that? Don't get my boob in it, but just get Schnooby for a second.
Her neck, her head is just like...
She's ultimate Chill Master 5000 right now. Okay.
The best. She's the greatest. And so, yeah, I feel like, again, going to this place of self-actualization where a lot of people are, trying to gain some value from this podcast. It's what you do. Absolutely. And it's also what you don't do that shapes who you are in this life. And so as you've been growing and evolving on your path, what has the power of the word no meant to you? Because the way I see it is like your yes has no value until you learn to say no, right? Until you learn to say no to certain things, to certain opportunities, to really honor and guard your time for what you want to be creating in the world. Because now you're getting to the place where all these opportunities and retreats are opening up and so many beautiful opportunities. And also you get to choose. Now you have the power of choice to see what's in most highest alignment for what you want to be creating in the world. So talk to us a little bit about
the power of no.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I am a recovering people pleaser. And I think that there's a level of, in the past of just saying yes to showing up to this gathering or showing up or letting, having this person over to my house or spending an hour with this individual or whatever it was, it was just more so a yes based off an external expectation or the desire to be liked or approved and accepted. And I think that this is, again, going back into the relationship between the maiden to the mother.
Yeah.
The maiden energy is very much a people pleaser energy. The maiden energy very much cares about what other people think about them, from my experience. And the mother energy is, like I said, deeper rooted in oneself. And so the no actually starts coming a little bit more easier because recognizing that our most precious thing that we can ever give is our time and our presence. And we can never get a moment back. We can never turn back the hands of time. And so it's it's really just recognizing the value of this moment and the value of my time with you, my time at home, my time in front of my altar, my time with my dog, my time, in the sauna, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like that's really precious time for me. And so if I'm saying yes to every being that wants, to do something or to create something or wants to go over here or do this is actually where I actually desaturate the things that mean the most to me, which is the nourishing times with the people closest. So recognizing that, and I had to learn through trial and error, was doing so many Gene Key readings. I opened up my Gene Keys book and remember that, like Chelsea's here, I'm off the camera, but Chelsea runs my schedule and my bookings, and there was a couple of weeks in my calendar that was like a Gene Key reading every day for 2 weeks straight or something. It was crazy. And we were like right at the end. But I remember being like, during that, it felt like a birth canal of like every day just studying so deep and then so many sessions that I felt that I realized the value of my time. Like I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing this to live. And I want it to be an accentuation of me living my life as opposed to something that I do and then I go and live my life. I want it to all weave into one, and that was the goal. And so realizing it starts with the no, of using a high level of discernment of that which enriches and that which depletes. And as much as I love connecting with people, I also do not have the desire to have tea every single day with everyone that reaches out and wants to connect. Right. I want to connect with people like this. I want to be having a great chat, going deep, creating content, putting it out to the world, serving them, the masses or the individuals that are ready to receive and align with the message, and that it will accentuate their life while also connecting deep with an individual, while also moving forward in the direction in which I want to move. And then I really enjoy my solo time. Yeah. So I really broke it down to 2 categories, that enriches and that depletes. And that may look different every single day, but it's really learning to listen to my body. It's really learning to listen to what is the most enriching for me, because I can only be of service, true service, when my cup is full, when I am feeling nourished on all levels of existence, mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually, financially, multidimensionally, on all planes of existence. When I feel nourished, that's when I can be of service. And saying no is the direct link to my nourishment. Yeah. So realizing that connection, it's the most important thing, because then when I say yes, I am all in. Right. I am 100% there, and that's when the next beautiful things start aligning, because it's not about what we do, it's about who we be while we do it. So it's like, if I show up and my yes is 100% rooted in my yes because I said no 3 times prior to this yes, and now everything in me, my being, wants to be there, I'm going to be on high octave energy emitting joy, magnetism. And then all of a sudden the next incredible opportunity presents itself because of how I showed up in that moment, because I said no 3 times prior, and I'm not spreading my energy thinly. So the power of the no has led me to this position, and I'm still navigating it. I haven't mastered it by any stretch of the imagination. As I say this as a matter of fact, not just to like pump up my ego here on this, but with social media and being very accessible through social media and sharing a lot of my life through social media, I get hundreds of messages a day. And I've had in the past people, being upset when I haven't responded to messages or just left them on read. And I'm still learning a way to support that everybody feels seen and acknowledged when they pour their heart out, and also simultaneously discerning with my time of not spending 6 hours a day on social media just responding to messages, but actually, being able to create and get a message out to more people while staying with my cup full. Yeah. It's a dance and it's a juggling act for sure.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like, I love how you just kind of talked about how if you're showing up 60% in any area of your life for something that you really don't want to fully be there, you're going to get more of that. You're going to continually get the reflection from the universe of the energy that you're emitting. And so honoring your no and then saying yes to when you're fully behind something, you're going to continue to get more of the things that make you come fully online. So yeah, you touched on this briefly already, but just to kind of go into it a little bit more, switching from the maiden to the mother archetype, what does that look like in practice for your health, for your finances, and then relationships you just kind of touched on a little bit.
Mm.
But in practice, what does that actually look like? How are you living your life differently?
Well, I did a tarot card reading this morning for my birthday, and I did like a full spread, and I sat in front of the fire and just really mapped it out. And a big piece right now, if the mother is mothering oneself, is I don't have a physical child. I've not given birth. I've given birth to creative projects, but I've not gone through that initiation yet. So I can't at all speak on behalf of what an actual mother has gone through. Mad respect. I feel like mothers are the superheroes of the planet. And the mother archetype speaks deeper into a layer of, am I mothering myself? Am I taking care of my physical body? Am I making sure that I'm fed? Am I making sure that I'm having a well-balanced diet? Am I making sure that I'm moving my body a certain amount of times a week? Like, this is something that I can slack on sometimes, and I can kind of just get distracted. And that's still that lingering energy of the maiden, that is sort of happy-go-lucky and just, has a super tight niche body that's just, I can eat anything and still look like this, and there's a deeper level of nourishment that wants to be born through the mother, and then that applies to all areas of life, like finances. Like for me, I've gone through a period of time where I had really no money at all when I left the comfort of my family, and I was sort of out in LA on my own and had to figure it out, and I really had no money. Like, I would scrape back between $20 and $100, and if I was really rocking it, $1,000 in my bank account. But I was just figuring it out, and I learned a lot about myself during those times. And simultaneously, now when I've started to set up little pockets where the energy can start flowing into, it's now going, okay, so I have some money. Now what to do with it? And having conversations about investing, and having conversations about, oh, well, if it's just sitting in a savings account, then it's actually depreciating in value. And actually, you would be better off if you invest it in certain pockets, and learning about investment and learning about how to create a river, not just a reservoir. A reservoir is like, it's just a stagnant body of water that's just kind of sitting there. Well, that's to have a savings account that just puts to the side, but actually realizing, well, I would like it to flow through me and to nourish my life, but continue to be of service to supporting other people. And so setting myself up in many different ways around a new conversation with finances, and a deeper level of responsibility, and a deeper calling in of more financial prosperity that supports to build out the podcast, to build out the platforms, to continue to be of service, to continue to host the retreats, to continue to pump out free content. Like, all of this stuff requires resources. And so instead of it just being like, well, I get paid when I get paid, and I don't get paid when I don't get paid, and every day and every month I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know how much my spends are every month, and I don't really, I'm not really super on it with my taxes. That feels like it's ready to be transmuted fully from my system. It's been a journey, but I'm ready to complete that cycle and really get turned on by my own boss babe a little bit. Like, I ultimately just want to be turned on by myself. When I put on an outfit, the question is like, how does it make me feel? Yeah. And I was shopping yesterday with Raven, and we were in a store, and she came out and she was wearing a dress, and she said, "What do you think?" And in that moment, that question doesn't seem the most empowering thing to answer, because actually my counter question for her was, how does it make you feel? Do you feel sexy in it? She said, yeah. Do you feel strong in it? Yeah. Do you feel empowered in it? Yeah. I said, well, then it's a great investment in self. It does. And that, I think, is just like another journey from the maiden to the mother. Is the maiden goes, what do you think? Do you like, what do you think? And that will change how I decipher in this moment. Like, even things like, are you hungry? I'm asking because I'm hungry, but my projection goes, are you hungry? And then based off of your answer is whether I eat or not.
Right.
Which is like, I feel like a lot of us are guilty of that. And it's something that I do all the time. I remember even saying once, do you have a headache? When I had a headache. Because I'm constantly like external validating my internal experience and being like, no, I have a headache, but I'm asking if you have one to validate that I have one. And it's like, what am I doing? And so I think that this also is just like a deeper level of responsibility of like, hey, what do I need in this moment? How does my body feel? Like even happened earlier today, just thinking about it. We did a sauna and a cold plunge this morning to start the day. And we were in the sauna, and I was getting to I was overheating. I felt, oh my God, I'm like really struggling.
We were having fun. We were freestyling.
Well, we were freestyling for the first 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
We were in there for a long time. We were freestyling and we were like, bouncing back and forth of like some riffs, and it was getting real cool. And then it got real hot. And then I was like, and I felt like you were saying to me, well, 5 more minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, push myself. And then I went into the cold plunge. And as soon as I got in the cold plunge, it felt like I was like high on some sort of drug or something. Like the ringing in my ears was like super high pitched, super loud. And I felt like I was like gonna pass out. And then I looked at the clock and I committed to doing a 5-minute plunge. And so there was this like overriding actually that I was gonna pass out in the cold plunge because I needed to reach 5 minutes. And it was in that moment, it was like, what am I doing? Like I need to listen to my body. Yeah. And I think that was just like a really powerful message for me of like my whole body was yelling at me, was like, you need to get out of this cold plunge right now. Yeah. It literally, it felt like the loudest alarm was going off and you couldn't hear it. And I was like, and then when I stood up, I almost passed out, like walking towards you. I was like, and this is really just a microcosm of the deeper level of taking care of myself, instead of being attached to the achievement of what has been set from an external experience. I always want to push myself. I always want to find that strength within that little gray zone of where the comfort zone ends. And simultaneously, there's a sweet spot of like really listening to what I need as opposed to overriding it
for sure.
For external validation of some sort. So this is another piece that, I'm working on nourishing. So it's finances, it's my body, it's my food, it's my home, it's my creations. I want to be more on it with Chelsea. She's so on it. And I'm like, yeah, we'll do podcasts. And then I don't respond. And she's like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm really calling in that next level of structure while also maintaining and keeping the flow and the magic alive. That's a really delicate dance. And I'm ready for the next level of that.
I think that's a great segue. Keeping the feeling and the beauty of that alive and the flow alive. And when I think of you, like, I've said this time and time again since I've met you, but just like the amount of like internal depth and wisdom that you can hold while simultaneously having the light and the humor and the fun and the play, like having that balance. Like I haven't met another individual that can like hold both of those pillars so strongly. And it makes it so fun to be around, right? Because you crave that fulfillment and the depth and also having fun. Like if you're not going to have fun and enjoy this human experience, then what's the freaking point of it, right? Mm-hmm. So it can be easy to get into that lane of just like over seriousness, which is more of a tendency for me to get into. And so we balance each other out and provide value for each other for sure on both of those things. So yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about there's essence and then there's form, there's the appearance and then there's the feeling. And for you, I feel like you do predominantly operate from the feeling of what, the feeling, the inner feeling is your compass for where you want to go, for what's a yes or what's a no. And so in terms of like success, overall life happiness, I feel like there's this saying that what you pursue eludes you. And there is this mindset shift that, I for sure have gone through the past couple of years. And I know that you have as well, from like hustling and achieving, trying to like doing everything. And then there's hustling and achieving and there's aligning and receiving, and really just being a conduit for the energy that you want to bring more in and allowing the opportunities to come in. That doesn't just mean you sit and meditate all day in a cave, right? You have to go do things, right? Law of attraction, action is in the word. You have to actually do things. But there's been a big shift, I feel like, for you as well, of just continuing to align yourself with the people, the circumstances, the food, the whatever it is that is going to put you in the vibration for the opportunities to be able to be received by you. Mm-hmm. So if you could just speak a little bit about, for the people that I'm sure there's a lot of similar archetypes to yourself that are watching this podcast that love you, all the people that you met and that kind of look up to you in many ways for, what you've been able to achieve and the trajectory that you're on, which is, astronomical. And so just touch on that a little bit, if you will. I think it would be super valuable.
I think looking back on it now, when you've worded it in that context, a lot of the amazing opportunities that presented themselves have existed on the other side of being really shit scared to share or to sing or to do something that someone has believed in me right off the bat very, very early on, and then given me an opportunity to share, and feeling everything in my being that wants to throw up, or just like my face has gone super red, or my palms are sweaty and my heart's racing out of my chest. And it's doing it anyway. That's then had someone else go, wow, that's beautiful. And then another opportunity and another bridge was formed for another opportunity to present itself in my reality. And so it's a byproduct of many, 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 many small decisions that have got me really uncomfortable. And there's, for me, nothing better, the feeling of nothing better than, for example, going to this mastermind in Lake Tahoe for Gerard Adams' Leaders Mastermind, which was absolutely sensational. And being asked, hey, Blu, come out here. We'll give you a 2-hour slot. You create a mastermind or a class or whatever, and we trust you. Just like, go. Now, no matter how many podcasts I've done, or a TEDx talk and standing on the big red dot on top of on a stage, or podcasts I've been on, or whatever it is that I have shown up in a position of being witnessed, I still get shit scared. Yeah. My brain still goes to worst case scenario of me standing up there for 2 hours and it being a massive belly flop, and everyone like, wow, God, why did you bring this woman in? There's that still presents itself every single time. Now, the difference is, do I let that decision actually say, actually, Gerard, I really appreciate the offer, but I don't want to do that. Well, then, okay, then there's not going to be more opportunities that will present itself, because I didn't get uncomfortable and just allow myself to show up, recognizing the universe wouldn't give me anything that I'm not ready for. Yeah. So it's still feeling the fears and getting nervous and going to the bathroom 3 times before I gotta go, because my belly's like, and then standing up there and the first 3 minutes being a little bit like, where is this going? And then all of a sudden something comes in and it's like, and it's full power, and have people like crying at the end or having huge breakthroughs or releasing. Someone wrote me a letter that said, Blu, after your class, like, I unlocked something in me that I've been holding on to for the past 25 years of my life. And, receiving this level of feedback just inspires me and activates me and charges me to continue to keep going. Where it would have been easy for me to have said no, because it was difficult and uncomfortable, and to be witnessed in front of a whole room of people where I don't know really what I'm going to talk about, but I'm trusting that Spirit's going to lock in at some point in co-creation with the words that come through my mouth, then it's a massive level of trust. And so I say that everybody's map of your human experience is going to be completely different, but everybody's going to have those edges that we know about. When you do 5 push-ups and then it gets to the 6th and 7th one, everything starts burning. That's where the growth happens. That's where the muscles actually start to be built. And so it's for me, it's like finding those edges and being like, oh wow, I have a fear of jealousy, or I have a fear of my partner going off with somebody else based off of past experiences. Well, this is actually a fear that's like lying in my being, so I can try and ignore it and just make sure that whenever we go out, we're alone. Don't have to like be around anybody that is going to present that feeling within me, or I can lean deeper into it. Yeah. And actually the person that has triggered that emotion, have them around more. Yeah. And bring them in so that I can continue to heal this piece. And that just applies to every area of my life. It's just like, it's a mindset of going, hey, there's an opportunity for growth here. And leaning in the discomfort is where the growth happens. So, for example, going to the gym and going into the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th rep, all of a sudden, after 6 months, there's a considerable amount of muscle growth that has happened. And that is contributing to the evolution of my path that is evolving me in the direction of content creation, or direction of the podcast, or direction of sharing my voice, or direction of being called to these masterminds, is because of the discomfort. Yeah. So there's a balance between listening to one's own body and simultaneously welcoming in the discomfort, and then growing exponentially. And that it's not just one thing that happens in my life. It wasn't just one piece of content that just blew up and then all of a sudden I have a podcast. It's like, showing up every day over and over, holding it in the vision, putting in every single penny that I had back into the podcast, which I, don't make any money off of the podcast per se directly. But the amount of money that has been poured into it is because it's a byproduct of just being my highest excitement and something that pushes my edge. And that many decisions over a prolonged period of time build something great. But it's consistency, it's vision, it's belief, and it's getting really uncomfortable.
Mhm. So beautiful. I mean, all the growth that we can have in life is on the other side of obviously our comfort zone, but those fears are going to prevent so many of us from actually taking the first step and going in that direction. But
Mm-hmm.
finding those edges, finding those areas where it's uncomfortable, it's a little scary, like just the right amount of suffering, I feel like is necessary for our growth. Otherwise, you're going to stay in your comfort zone forever, and it'll eventually become your discomfort zone because of how content you are with yourself, and it's going to lead to stagnation. I feel like you're either growing or you're dying. So it's a conscious choice that you have to be able to say, I'm scared and I'm going to do it anyways. Like people, I feel like think that these multimillionaires and people that are successful or celebrities or like people that have achieved a lot in life, they just are cut from a different cloth.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like these human emotions that run through all of us the same, and a lot of these fears, what the differentiating factor is for somebody who achieves something and doesn't is simply feeling the fear and just doing it anyway and
Mm-hmm.
still taking the step and just following through with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a beautiful thing to see you continue to die to the perception of who you think that you are.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing for this more of the essence of you to come online, and that requires, again, like you said, confronting all these parts of yourself that are viewing yourself in a limited aspect, thinking
Mm-hmm.
that you're the somebody that needs to be protected, this identity that doesn't want to be perceived in a certain way.
Mm.
And the more that we can put ourselves out there, and whether it's public speaking, which can be very difficult, or jumping into a cold plunge, which can be very painful, by doing it anyways, you build that confidence in yourself that, like, hey, I was scared, but I'm signaling to my brain and my amygdala and different parts of my like brain that I didn't die.
Mm.
I did the fear. I did the thing that I feared, and I'm okay. I
Mm.
made it. I actually feel pretty good. I'm gonna
Mm.
do it again, and then it gets easier and easier and
Mm-hmm.
easier again, and then you step into this place where you can do it more often,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it doesn't matter what we do once. That's not who we become. It's what we do every day over a sustained period of time. That consistent effort creates who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to see you do those things over the course of the year, the podcast consistently, right? And it's so important to find the things that really make you come online, the things that excite you. Otherwise, you're not going to stick with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding the things that can push you in the direction of growth, finding that edge and staying consistent with it over a period of time. And it's like, man, you'll just be so blown. And I've seen you be so blown away by how much growth can come from it. All the opportunities that come in, the large amounts of finances that pour in, the opportunities, that people that you can meet, the places that you can go. So much can come from you really blossoming. But
Mm.
if you're not putting the right ingredients in, if you're not providing the right environment and the right amount of water, you're not going to be able to really blossom to your full potential, which for me in my earlier journey was a big fear, not being able, and I think it's common for a lot of people, of
Mm-hmm.
not actualizing my potential in this life. I really
Mm-hmm.
just don't want to be 80 on my deathbed and saying, what if?
Mm-hmm.
What if I did that thing? And for
Mm-hmm.
so many people, studies have shown regret what they didn't do. It's
Mm-hmm.
not what they did. They regret, I wish I would have talked to that person. I wish I would have told them I liked them. I wish I would have taken that opportunity. I wish I would have went in that direction, followed my passion instead of going into a job that was secure right away.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to make these things that are uncomfortable, but deep down we know that's the right path that we want to take.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been beautiful to see you evolve on this journey. I'm really enjoying this podcast with you. And I want you to now kind of take us a little bit more into the future, and what you want to continue to create. I love doing these little time capsules where I think last year on our like 1 year anniversary, I think we sat in front of the fire and we just talked to a camera. I just put a camera in front of us, and for 40 minutes.
Oh yeah. Do
we
you still
just,
have that?
yeah, of
I totally
course.
forgot about that.
That's the thing, right? Like you forget about it and then it sits on a hard drive for 30 years. And then you get to look back on these things
Right,
of like
right.
you calling in what you want to manifest. I think it's so cool. And so I'd love for you to do a little bit of that now.
Mm.
You can speak from the I am if you wish. But regardless, tell us a little bit about, 3 to 5 years from now, what does the impact that you're having on the planet look like? What are you doing? What does your lifestyle look like? How are
Mm.
you being of service? Where's the podcast? Do you still want to have a podcast? All these things just kind of bring us into the future so we can kind of see you there, hold that timeline for you in our mind, and continue to support you on your journey of making it happen.
Amazing. Well, I will do it from the I am language
Let's go.
because I like to say this with my Gene Key clients. is when, like, if I was to hand you a catalog of the universe, and this catalog is like more like a sort of Gandalf looking book with rhinestones all over it. And it's a magical book where you open it and it just anything and everything exists within inside of this book. And you can pick and choose the life by design. And then once you pick and choose that life by design, I want you to reflect it back to me from the I am language as if it's already happening. But before you say it, take a deep breath and share it from a place of the feeling. And so that's always my invitation. And so now I have an opportunity to reflect that back. So I will do exactly that.
Let's go.
Just move my little snooty boy.
Little baby lamb.
Oh, baby lamb. Oh, hello. For anybody that's listening to this and not watching it, then there's little, it makes sense when you see the video of what's happening. Anyways, okay, let me just tune in. Well, first and foremost, my creativity is the most important thing to me in my life. And I am fully uninhibited, fully expressed. My body is flexible and strong. And I don't just hear the music when I'm dancing, I feel it through every single cell of my being. And it's a permission slip that I give myself in such a deep way that it does not leak any energy towards what other people are thinking about, but more so it's an empowered state of, I do this because it feels good and it's not harming anybody else. And so this is really where I birth everything in my being from. I currently have a podcast, and the Deja Blu podcast, which actually is up there with the Joe Rogan podcast and the Russell Brand podcast and the Impulsive podcast. And it's really representing a female voice in the world that is coming from a place of art, of authentic beauty, not artificial glamour. And I think that that every single person that tunes into this podcast, they feel empowered, they feel activated, they feel alive, and it's something that creates a deeper level of like serotonin, of a feel good feeling within their being, based off of the content that is media as medicine. And so, yes, this is similar to what I'm doing right now, and the I am is coming from, this is really making an impact in a much bigger way. Recognizing that the podcast isn't about me, it's about a specific message, and it's about a specific feel-good feeling of empowerment. And so that's really what I would love to see as my contribution to the planet. And so the podcast has 1 million unique downloads per month, which is really exciting. And then with that level of energy that comes in, I also have sponsors of sustainable clothing brands and brands that are really supporting the planet, and specific charities or philanthropies that are really supporting the evolution of mankind and are funneling resources and energy into the direction of things that are supporting the planet and all of the sentient life that is on the planet. So really also utilizing the podcast as a platform to funnel attention and intention into the direction of those that are really making a difference for the sustainability for future generations to come. I also would like to utilize the platform to highlight other voices that do not have a platform but have a brilliant message, and to be able to pour into whatever it is that they're creating through utilizing the platform of interviewing brilliant minds around the planet. I am living in a home that just emanates sustainability, that emanates beauty. And there's nothing in my space that is not either beautiful or serves a purpose. So there's not just stuff. It's spacious. It's large ceilings because it feels expansive. It doesn't need to be super big, but just feels like home. And it's a place where I host retreats, and in fact, actually, in the back of my home, there is like a retreat center, kind of like a Maloka dome, where it's for like yoga classes and meditation classes and different retreats. And there's lots of land, and the sustainable. We're living sustainably by growing our own food and being nourished. All of the food is also infused with Reiki and specific magic so that it grows. And all of the seeds are also planted by putting it in our mouth first, and then planted it. And then all of the fruit and the vegetables that grows based off of the nourishment that is deficient within our bodies, because we've specifically aligned our genetics with the food that's growing. So it grows as medicine for those that live within this community that I'll be a part of. And I see that the podcast also is an opportunity to put antennas out into the world that can continue to feed and thrive the community in which I'm living in. I would love to have some little babies. I'll have at least 2 babies. Little babies. And my intention with having children, if that is in the stars for me, is that they live from the moment they are born. In fact, from the 9-month gestation period while they're in my womb, of really believing that magic is the default and that to live a human experience is so profound and that they are capable and are so welcome to live out whatever it is that their heart desires. And that I represent in their life a permission slip for them to give themselves permission slip for everything that they ever want to be without me shitting on them of what I think that their life is supposed to look like. And I would love to give that opportunity because I feel like a lot of the children on this planet go through a very specific system that dims our light and dims what it is that they want to do based off of what is deemed as successful or not successful. And I would love to gift children that come through me or children that I am around, my friends' children, to be an auntie, that gift them that opportunity that they don't have to go through 15 years of programming to then come back full circle in what they wanted to do when they were 6 as a 30-year-old, and to actually create sort of a ramp that supports that to be birthed straight off the bat. And then when it comes to finances, I really just believe in the law of prosperity based off the Gene Keys teachings of, I'm always provided for and I don't need to stockpile a large amount of wealth based off of a fear of like it never being there or running out, but more so allowing myself to be a river, not a reservoir of funds to come through me to then be able to utilize my discernment of that, which will support other beings, my friends, my sisters, to go through retreats or programs, scholarship funds, and being able to create lots of free content out in the world. Because I think that to sustain this lifestyle, certain prices for packages or whatever it is need to be quite high, but then that creates like a disconnect with those that really are calling in support. So I would love to create a system where a lot of my offerings are for free. And then I'll go back to the I am language. I am an author. I have a book called The Book of Blue. And it's called The Book of Blue, The Book of Blue, A Life to Unlocking Beauty, Love, and Unity Everywhere You Go. Something along those lines. And I see that just being, there's so many different areas in my life, just like condensed down into certain things, like how to melt the heart of any being that you come into contact with, the 3-step process of ask dope questions, listen intently, and reflect the beauty that you see. That's a whole chapter in itself. But really just recognizing everywhere we go, we have an opportunity to plant a seed of pure beauty in the hearts of those that are around us. So there's many different modalities and formats and things that I have cultivated over my life that have created, over many small decisions, a life of beauty. So I'd love to be an author. I am an author. I have a best-selling book. And I would like to, this is really what's happening right now. I give back 10% of everything that I make, at least, to continue to feed the ecosystem of a dispersing energy to those that need it. That's what I feel right now.
Perfect.
I went quite long there on that one, but I could go forever, I think. But I think that's good for now.
Great. No, I mean, whether or not this is a new season, I think this is the first domino towards, a lot of expansion for the podcast, for the show, for the viewers to continue to build a relationship with you. So it's amazing. I see all of that for you and more. And ultimately, if we knew exactly what was coming in our future and we got exactly everything that we wanted, that'd be pretty boring life. So I feel like a lot of the surprises that come from the unknown, things that could happen better than we could even imagine. That's really the magic that's going to happen. And so I see a very, very bright future for you, Blue.
Thank you. And I think it's so beautiful to hold the excitement of what the future holds and simultaneously just soften and melt into the gratitude of everything that's here right now.
Absolutely.
And I think that today for me is an opportunity, instead of looking forward to the future, like projecting my attention out into the future, even though I think it's really beautiful to speak about the infinite amount of things that can happen. Today, I really want to reflect on my gratitude of everything that I've achieved in my life. And to marinate in just allowing myself to acknowledge that if I'm digging a hole, it's so easy to look into the hole and be like, oh, there's so much more to dig. But just to turn around me and see the huge pile of soil that I have dug out of the hole. And just today is my day of recognition of like how much I have actually created in my life. And to be reflected by, we have people coming over to this evening, some of my closest friends, and just to be able to be reflected of all of the lives in one place, of the seeds that have been planted over many present conversations that have led to being surrounded by an abundance of love. And ultimately, that is what it comes down to, is if it's not in love, how can I lean into the discomfort to transmute it and alchemize it back into love, and just do that in so many different areas, whether it's cleaning the drawers of my closet or in my relationship or with my family. It's just learning to continue to melt any parts of myself that's still in division back into love and see what comes from that place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me on my birthday, I always just take some time out to reflect on where I've come, to really get clear on where I want to go. And then on the actual day, and every day moving forward, to really be, get the presents and then have the presence with all the people around you and all the beautiful things that have fallen into your life, and really just fill your aura with gratitude, because so fortunate to have such an amazing tribe, amazing community, amazing food, and amazing house, and to be able to really just sink into really what's been created to this point, I think is super magical. And so I'm excited for it.
Also, just the frequency of gratitude, like laying in bed every night, for the most part, even when I'm sad, and saying thank you. And genuinely, like most nights before I go to sleep, I just do a scan and thank you. Wow, thank you for this. Thank you. Oh, thank you. And I feel it in my heart and I feel it in my being. And just try and say thank you 10 times in a row. Eventually you'll start feeling grateful. And just doing a recap every night before bed, it just creates the most amazingly fertile soil for more things to be grateful for, to flow into one's being. And for me, I'm the most grateful for such small things, of just like a beautiful conversation, or someone making time to jump on the phone when they're really busy, or things that aren't material stuff. Material things are fun and it's part of the human experience. And the things that I think that when I'm on my deathbed that I'll be truly grateful for is the way that people showed up for me in my life. And that's just something that I get to reflect on with being around my friends tonight. Is it's not necessarily material things, not necessarily the things that cost a lot of money. It's really the eye contact, the handhold, the heart to heart hug, holding just for an extra few seconds and breathing with someone and feeling them being fully present with me. It's such a beautiful, beautiful gift.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. I'm excited to party tonight with you. It's going to be fun. And this was great. Maybe we'll do another one. Maybe we'll do more, part 2.
Well, now we have a podcast room in the house.
Yeah.
Instead of me just constantly converting our dining room table into a podcast studio, and actually having a podcast room it's really, it's setting myself up to actually just do more of it.
Yeah.
And that's why I love to be surrounded by musical instruments or painting canvases or anything, because when it's there, I'm way more inclined to actually do it than if I don't even own it. That's just not going to happen. So I just love to be surrounded by invitations. And I think that having a podcast room is one massive invitation to be an official podcast.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that for the viewers, for the podcast, for the show, that you feel like is on your heart that you want to share right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to focus on some gratitude right now. I wouldn't have this podcast and it wouldn't be creating the way that it did with this level of quality if it wasn't for Chelsea and for everything that she's done behind the scenes. And it's not just so much of what Chelsea does when it comes to the technical stuff, even though that is the fabric of why I have such high quality experience, but also it's that I'm going to say you now because you're sitting over here. You can't see her, but she's sat right here. it's that you believe in me and you share my TEDx talk and certain podcasts with your parents, like with your father and your beloved, and the way that you show up in just every single day is just like that you want to be here. And I can never force that out of somebody. I can't pay someone enough to want to do something. It's either just something that's inherently within you or it's not. And you've just loved me and laughed with me, and you've got me when I haven't even understood what I'm processing or what's going on. And it's just been moments of like before a podcast when I've been a little heavier, she's just like put some music on. It's like, dance, time to dance, you know, like it's those little things that just really support me. And also just it happens behind the scenes. I'm the face of the podcast, right? Like I you know, I tell the deepest parts of my stories, and so I get seen a lot. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done behind the scenes to support me to be able to show up and be of service in this way. And it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for you. So you coming to my life has exponentially excelled my journey and my passion and my path and my impact. And from the thumbnails that you've created to learning Photoshop in an even deeper way to learn how to make it happen, for me to say, hey, is this possible? And you responding with a very confident yes, even though you don't know how to do it yet. Like, it's those moments that I don't take for granted. And I just want to say thank you for that, for everything that you bring. Chelsea, the wizard that I'm so blessed has come into my life and exponentially expanded my life in so many ways, in so many different directions. I love you. Thank you. And to Andre, like, again, same, like what you've done to, so like all of these podcasts are created with your mics that you have invested into your company, with your cameras, with this whole podcast set being put together while I was gone, and being in the joy and the excitement of me coming home and being like, look what I did for you. Like those selfless acts of service of just so beautiful, and that I have been able to be blessed enough to occupy this much of your consciousness that you want to pour into me for hours straight, and to believe in me and believe in the vision. And even when my emotions fluctuate and I'm not sure what I want in my life anymore, you just haven't stopped loving me. Whether it includes you, whether it doesn't include you, doesn't matter. It's just that you genuinely love me enough to want to see me thrive in this life. And at whatever that takes, you're willing to stand with me in that truth. And that is what I truly believe love is. And so I'm just so grateful for you being in my life from the moment that we met to the moment that we're at right now. We've loved each other, and that hasn't changed. So as whatever wants to shift around that, of however our dynamics play out, we don't know what's going to come tomorrow. But right now, what I can say is that I love you and I'll love you forever. And I'll always have your back no matter what. And I'm so grateful for everything that you've brought into my life, because it's also things behind the scenes of being like, wow, Blu, you're growing exponentially. There's so many things that are happening so fast. And yeah, I've played a huge role in it. And there are other ingredients in the cake that are just not seen as much, but are as important. And you're one of them. So thank you. And I love you very much. And yeah, that's what feels like just to my gratitude right now is the people in this room.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Then maybe anything to the viewers, anything to the audience, everybody that's been tuning in.
Yeah, on the theme of gratitude, also directly to the camera. To all of you that have tuned into the podcast since episode 1, to all of you that have shared on your Instagram stories, to all of you that have written me a beautiful little love note on Instagram in my messages, in my DMs that I may have responded to and may not have responded to. But please know that without you, none of this would have been possible. And I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. And to all of you that have met me in physical, that we've gone to a mastermind or something and you've been like, I listened to the podcast. Honestly, those moments never, ever, ever get old for me. I'm just so humbled and so grateful, because when I specifically see you in person and I look into your eyes and I feel your heartbeat when I hug you, it just reminds me of the impact that this podcast is truly creating. And it just feeds me to continue to keep going, even when there's resistance or it gets tough. So to all of you beautiful bluebirds, or to all of you that do not associate yourself as a bluebird, but you're tuning into this, I am so grateful for you, truly from the bottom of my heart. So I will continue to face off with myself over and over and over again so that I can deliver you the most authentic message possible. And thank you for making my dreams come true.
Woo! I think that was a beautiful podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll let you do the outro because this is your show. But thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for continuing to lay yourself out there for the world to see and be vulnerable and share yourself and continue to find your authenticity in this world. It's been so amazing to see. It's been extremely inspiring for me, and all the words that you said to me, I feel 100% back to you. I wouldn't be the man that I am today without you. And I mean that with every single word. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. Happy birthday. I'm excited to celebrate you tonight and to continue to support you on your journey. I'm always going to be here for that. So thank you. I love you. And let's dance.
Alrighty, beautiful humans. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Deja Blu. And we have this magical set now from this point forward. So it's really exciting to continue to witness this podcast as it shapes and molds and evolves. And I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. So maybe today for my birthday, my request for you is to just at least spend 5 minutes in silence, focusing and reflecting on all the things that you are grateful for that are in your life. Even if it's writing it down or just singing it out loud, that would be my birthday gift from you, if that's something that you open
and
to
my
do.
request for birthday's gift, Blu's birthday gift, would be if she's inspired you in any way for her birthday, whenever this podcast comes out, it'll probably be a week or two after her birthday, but to take a snippet from this podcast or some other content that's inspired you and to share it and just let her know, send her a message, tag her in a story, whatever it is, and let her know how much she's impacted you. Because I think it's easy to overlook how much we really impact people. It's just like this thing, social media, it's like disconnected from us, but especially you've been seeing in person at retreats. And then when it, people reach out and let you know, I think it's really impactful. So that's my request for you all as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you. And until next week, stay blessed.